Before any drug reaches your hands, before it sits on a pharmacy shelf, it goes through a process most people never see. Clinical trials. They are often described as the gold standard of modern medicine, carefully controlled, scientifically rigorous, designed to protect you, and in many ways, they are. But behind the headlines of breakthrough treatments and life saving drugs, there is a reality few people fully understand because clinical trials are not just about science, they are about uncertainty, risk, and sometimes uncomfortable truths. Every clinical trial begins with a question: can this drug work in humans? But before that question is answered, it must pass through phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, each one designed to test safety, effectiveness, and dosage. But here's what's rarely emphasized: most drugs never make it through all three. In fact, the majority fail. Not because scientists are careless, but because biology is unpredictable. What works in a lab does not always work in the human body, and sometimes it causes harm. In early phase trials, participants are often the first humans to ever receive that drug. Think about that. No long term data, no guarantee of benefit, only a possibility that it might work, and a responsibility to help science move forward. These participants are not just patients, they are pioneers. But their journey is not always simple. Informed consent is a cornerstone of clinical trials. Participants are told about risks, procedures, and potential outcomes. But understanding risk and experiencing it are not the same. Medical language can be complex, probabilities can feel abstract, and when you're facing a serious illness, hope can influence decisions. Sometimes patients join trials not because it's the best option, but because it feels like the only option, and that changes everything. Then there's the placebo effect. In many trials, participants are randomly assigned. Some receive the actual drug, others receive a placebo, a treatment that looks identical but has no active ingredient. This is essential for scientific accuracy, but for patients, it introduces uncertainty. You may believe you're being treated when you're not, and yet your body might still respond. Because the mind is powerful, expectation alone can produce measurable effects, which makes clinical trials as much about psychology as they are about biology. But what about safety? Clinical trials are heavily regulated ethics committees, monitoring boards, strict protocols, all designed to minimize harm, and they do. But risk is never zero. Side effects can emerge unexpectedly, some mild, some severe, and some only discovered years later. History has shown us this. Drugs that pass trials but reveal long term consequences after approval, because no trial, no matter how well designed, can fully predict what happens in the real world. Then there's the question of representation. Who participates in clinical trials? Often it's a limited population, specific age groups, certain geographic regions, sometimes lacking diversity, which means the results may not apply equally to everyone. A drug that works well in one group may behave differently in another. But by the time it reaches the market, those differences are not always fully understood. And then there's something rarely discussed: data interpretation. Clinical trials generate massive amounts of data, but how that data is analyzed and presented matters. Positive results are more likely to be published. Negative or inconclusive findings sometimes receive less attention, not necessarily due to deception, but because of how the system is structured. Funding, competition, the pressure to succeed, all influence the process. This doesn't mean clinical trials are unreliable, far from it. They are one of the most important tools in modern medicine. They have led to vaccines, cancer therapies, life saving drugs. They have transformed healthcare, but they are not perfect. They are a system built by humans, studying something incredibly complex, the human body. And complexity always comes with uncertainty. So, what does this mean for you? It means understanding that every approved drug has a history, a journey through trial and error, success and failure. It means recognizing the courage of those who participate in trials, often without knowing the outcome. And it means asking questions about risks, about benefits, about what is known and what is still unknown. Because medicine is not just about answers, it's about probabilities. And clinical trials are where those probabilities are tested.